Derrick Henry and TreVeyon Henderson are top 5 running back plays with great matchups this weekend. We reveal our full running back rankings for Week 12 on today's episode of Locked On Fantasy Football.
You are Locked On Fantasy, your daily NFL fantasy podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Fantasy Football, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. I'm one of your co-hosts, Michelle Magdziuk, and when I'm not doing this, I'm a researcher and fantasy analyst with NFL Network.
And I'm your other co-host, Vinnie Iyer. When I'm not doing this, I'm writing about NFL fantasy and betting for sportingnews.com.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Today, we're getting into our running back rankings for Week 12. We already went through our quarterback and tight end rankings on yesterday's show, so go back and listen to that if you missed it. Starting right at the top for our running backs, let's talk about the buys real quick. Devin Achane, Kamani Vidal, /Marion Hampton, RJ Harvey, and the Commanders running backs will all be on bye this week, so they will not be in our rankings. Getting to the top, we have Christian McCaffrey, Jahmyr Gibbs, Bijan Robinson, and Jonathan Taylor in our top 4. There's no questions about those guys. They've been absolutely thriving. But at number 5, you have Derrick Henry against the Jets. A few spots ahead of me, I have him at number 9. He's getting it done with rushing yards as of late, but the touchdowns aren't coming like they did last year. They're kind of hit or miss. And it just looks like he's slowed down a little bit, so I can't put him that high up. But it's a good matchup without Quinnen Williams there for sure. TreVeyon Henderson just destroyed them last week.
Yeah, this should be the Derrick Henry game you guys have been waiting for. I mean, I know it's been a little bit of a struggle bus. If you've had Henry and you drafted him early as an RB1, he hasn't produced that way. And there's a number of factors for that. They had the quarterback change. It was disastrous with Cooper Rush. Then you had Tyler Huntley kind of bring him back to life. But this team hasn't run the ball and been playing with leads the way we're used to. They've been in some high-scoring games, and when that happens, Derrick Henry is not on the field. When they have to go back and forth or they've been trailing, they have to throw the ball a lot. And we saw Justice Hill kind of be a spark early in the season, but now the Ravens are winning. They can smell winning the AFC North now. The Jets are basically going through the motions at this point. They benched Justin Fields. So if the Ravens can't play with a lead against former Raven Tyrod Taylor, by the way, I mean, it's coming full circle that he's playing them this week. If they're not well ahead in this game, it's going to be sad because I think they should crush the Jets. And look, they're mad about last week. They had to grind through beating the Browns. That game was on the road. This is back in Baltimore. So I think this is one of those vintage, like Lamar Jackson throws for like 220 and 4, and then there's a running back game where he explodes. So this is kind of that game where I think Lamar Jackson runs well, Derrick Henry runs well, and we finally see that 2024 version of the Ravens offense come together. So I'm seeing that, envisioning that. And look, Derrick Henry ran well last week against a tough Browns defense. That was a good sign for this week. He had that nice long run. So I think he can reel off a few against the Jets, much like Henderson did last week. So I'd be disappointed if he doesn't get multiple touchdowns this week. I think that definitely happens and clearly going to pass 100 yards.
And speaking of Henderson, I have him as my running back 5 this week in an amazing matchup against the Bengals, who are the best defense for your fantasy running backs to go against this year by a lot. And Ramondre Stevenson has come back to practice or is expected to practice today. So on Wednesday, we'll see if he does and if he can play. But Henderson has been so much better as the starter. I mean, averaging over 2 more yards per carry as starter this year over Stevenson, has 5 touchdowns in the last 2 games when Stevenson had 3 in his 8 starts. Like, he's the much better player. So I hope they just stick with him now. The coaching staff can be a little stubborn there, but I'm sticking with him this week. I still think he's going to be great, even if Stevenson is back. And you have him at number 8. So you're not far behind there with me, with Henderson.
Yeah, I mean, funny thing is we started, Quinshon Judkins looks like the better Ohio State back. He's the powerful guy. He's running through people. He's shown some explosiveness. And TreVeyon Henderson really struggling to get on the field. How quickly those tables have turned now that Henderson looks like the more exciting Ohio State back. I think Judkins, we'll talk about him a little bit later. Could he rebound this week? Henderson doesn't need to rebound. He's absolutely on fire the past couple of weeks. He's also scoring well in the red zone, not just as a runner, but a receiver. So he's shown them the complete package here where he doesn't deserve to be a committee back. I think he deserves to get 15 plus touches per game. So again, I don't think there's any slowing down in this game. And the Bengals really stink against the run. So, I mean, keep rolling with him. I think they would go with a hot hand. And really, it's not a hot hand situation. Henderson's just a better back at this point.
Absolutely. Now, we have a lot of guys in common here to finish up our top 10. Kyron Williams is your 6, my 7. Saquon Barkley is your running back 7. He's my 8. James Cook you have at 10. I also have at 10. But one guy that we're different on is Rico Dowdle. I have him at my running back 6 this week against the 49ers. You have him at 14, which, with his production lately, that's kind of where he belongs, is in that 14 range. It's been okay. It just hasn't been what he was putting up, when he first became the starter. It was 13.8 points, 12.5 over the last 2 weeks and half PPR, but he's still getting a ton of touches, 18 carries, 19 carries, 7 targets last week. And this 49ers defense is just not very good. I mean, they're falling apart. Yeah, last week it was Jacoby Brissett who did everything, but the Cardinals don't have a run game. At all. So I do think they'll lean on Rico Dowdle in this game to try to keep the 49ers offense off the field. We'll see how long, hopefully as a 49ers fan, I hope they destroy him. But in the case of Rico Dowdle, I hope they can keep this game close and Dowdle should get a ton of touches and put up a lot of yards.
Yeah, I do like Dowdle. I just am dropping him a little bit out because, again, we like some of those matchups a lot. I mean, Derrick Henry bumps up quite a bit this week. I also have players such as Javonte Williams, the Eagles' run defense. I think you have to run on them quite a bit. He had a nice game against them the first time. I think the Bills are going to have to feed James Cook. We'll see if Jalen Warren plays. We'll see if Josh Jacobs plays. Those are 2 guys that would maybe displace what Rico Dowdle can do. I'm just a little bit worried about the game script. If they get a little bit behind, will they abandon the run? I don't know if they'll totally abandon the run. They got the touches there for him in that rally against the Falcons last week and won in overtime. So he'll get his touches no matter what. I'm just going to curb myself a little bit because it is in San Francisco. It's in prime time. His defense doesn't want to be known for giving up that much yardage right in a game, even if they have some key players gone. So I think they'll play a little bit better defense at home. And we know the Panthers are inconsistent from game to game, opponent to opponent. And if they had a great offensive game, that means they'll probably not have a good one this week.
Yeah, hopefully the Panthers can be a little bit more consistent and not let us down too much this week because Bryce Young should have a good game as well. Now, Travis Etienne, you are a little bit higher on than me, and it's one guy that you have ahead of Rico Dowdle. You have him at running back 9 against the Cardinals. I'm slightly behind you at running back 13. Nice matchup for Etienne this week. The Cardinals have allowed the 9th most points per game to running backs. In the last 3 weeks, he's come back to life with 14 points, 14.7, and then last week, 19.3 points. Scored 2 touchdowns, which was really nice. He's starting to score rushing touchdowns again, 3 in the last 2 weeks, and the workload has been there again. So I think Etienne's a pretty safe and solid play this week.
Yeah, I was getting a little bit worried last week when I was watching the Chargers-Jaguars game, and I'm like, oh no, here we go with Bashal Tutin scoring. And I'm like, oh, great. And I was like, are they going to do this to Travis Etienne? But then I realized, the Jaguars are about to dominate this game and have a lot of rushing work. And that's what we want for Travis Etienne. We want the positive game script because, again, strangely, still not used as big time as a check down receiver. I think they're looking at him a little bit more in that capacity, not that much more, but he needs to have a positive game script for the Jaguars. And look, I don't think the Cardinals are a team, if they're going to win this game, which I think they have the capacity to do in Arizona, that they're going to run and hide from the Jaguars. I think it's going to be a close game. I think you'll see the Jaguars try to run quite a bit because it's tough to pass with Trevor Lawrence against the Cardinals defense. You'll see the flip side, the Cardinals try to pass a lot on the Jaguars. So they're just going to try to attack each other with their strengths, weaknesses there. And look, Etienne should carve up that team. And Christian McCaffrey and the 49ers had no problems, right, running through that defense. So I think Etienne, that's what they want to do first. And when they run with him and they're playing defense, that's when they win games, right? So he's also key to their game plan to avoid that trap against the Cardinals this week.
Yeah, it's really, really solid play. Don't know, if he'll score another 2 touchdowns, but he does feel like a safe option this week. And to close out our top 12, we both have Javonte Williams in our top 12. You have him at 11. I have him at 12. And then DeAndre Swift, I'm much higher on than you this week. And then you're higher on Jaylen Warren if he plays this week. They play in the same game, Steelers versus the Bears. We'll get to that matchup, plus get through the rest of our running back rankings right after a quick break.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
All right. To continue our running back rankings, you have Jaylen Warren at number 12. I have DeAndre Swift at number 11. Now, Jaylen Warren for me is at 21, and Swift for you is at 17. With DeAndre Swift, I just really like the matchup for him against the Steelers. Lately, they've been a little bit better as a defense, but I do think the Bears will have to lean on the run. They're going to be at home. They don't want to put Caleb Williams in situations where TJ Watt can get after him and he's under pressure and all this stuff. Like, I think they're going to lean on the run heavily. Ben Johnson has been doing that, and he just gets so much work. Like last week in a close, low-scoring game, 21 carries he had. So it didn't turn into many fantasy points with just 90 yards and no touchdowns, but I think he can score in this game and be a good play. With Warren, I just kind of worry about the injury, and I worry about Kenneth Gainwell getting in more work if he is dealing with the injury, but it is also a nice matchup for Jaylen Warren.
Yeah, I'm just a little bit concerned that Swift is not going to get the goal lines that we want here with Kyle Monangai doing that role basically. So Swift is going to have to score in a different way this week, and that's my only concern. But I think he can definitely compile on this one. I didn't drop him down out of the RB2s by any means. So I just think he might be capped a little bit because of Monangai's usage. Now, we'll see what happens with Jaylen Warren. Let's get some reports as we get later in the week. I mean, he's been fantastic until he had the injury last week, and then Kenneth Gainwell had to come and really spark them late with Mason Rudolph in that game as a runner and receiver. So Gainwell basically, whenever there's like a slight opening with Warren and injury, we saw it when he couldn't play out in England, where if there's or Dublin, I should say, against the Vikings, when he couldn't play, boom, he had Gainwell in there, produced big time. So be ready. This is why we said keep handcuffing your dudes. Gainwell has been sitting out there in a lot of leagues for a long time. If you don't have him, that's your fault if you have Warren. So, again, Gainwell could be a very good play this week if Warren's out. I just like, in general, the ability to run the ball on the Bears' defense. Their pass defense has actually become a little bit tough here. So, I do like whoever the main Steelers running back is this week.
Let's talk about the two rookies who have been struggling. Quinshon Judkins for the Browns. He gets the Raiders this week. And then Ashton Jeanty in that same game against the Browns defense. Like, both have been disappointing. Jeanty really fell flat on his face this week at 6.4 fantasy points. Only 6 carries in the game for 7 yards. He did get 8 targets, so 6 receptions, which, saved him from having no points whatsoever. But the Browns, even on the road, are a tough run defense. Like, you can pass on them when the Browns are playing on the road, but they're still a very tough run defense always. And I don't know what to do with Jeanty. The offensive line stinks. His usage can go from getting 20 carries down to 6 in any given game. I mean, he has 6 carries exactly in 2 of the last 4 games. And then with Judkins, he's still getting the work, but the efficiency has died off. The scoring opportunities have been eliminated with this offense. And I mean, it's a fine matchup, but that just worries me a bit. We both are higher on Judkins this week than Jeanty. I have Judkins at 14. You have him at 16. While I have Jeanty at 18, and you have Jeanty at 21. But I don't feel great about either guy.
Yeah, go figure. This has been disappointing, and everything's been flipped upside down. We thought, okay, we're rolling with Jeanty and Hampton and Judkins, and they're going to be the class. And then Henderson has popped up. Now, what happens with RJ Harvey down the stretch will be something interesting to watch. We also have seen Woody Marks. We'll talk about him. We'll be later in the show. So this rookie class has been odd, and then we thought Caleb Johnson would play a bigger role. He's had a zero role with his team. So it's just been all over the place with this rookie backfield, just not as good as advertised, I would say, overall, or consistent as advertised. But Jeanty, just give him the ball. I mean, this is stupid. Like, I know they weren't on the field much against the Cowboys because they kept turning over the ball, and the Cowboys were just ripping them and staying on the field offensively. But there's no way a talent that good should see that few of carries. I don't care what the score is. Like, just get him going. Plus, you're looking to next year. You want to see what your core is. Geno Smith is probably not going to be your quarterback. So let's see what you're going to do with Jeanty and Brock Bowers, your core offensive players. I mean, it's kind of a Chip Kelly knock here that, remember the Broncos game, they totally forgot about Brock Bowers after a big play. They just go away from the playmakers that they do have, and it's really bad. So I'm not having high expectations for Jeanty. I'm hoping he scores a touchdown. I think he's a volume-based, hey, he's a starter play at number 21. But Judkins, I actually might be excited about. Look, Javonte Williams had to take a little bit of a back seat because Dak Prescott was ripping things downfield against the Raiders. But you know that the Browns are going to lean on the run, especially now with Shedeur Sanders starting. Like, there's no way I want to put the ball in Sanders' hands in this one. I don't care if it's the Raiders defense on the other side, right? I don't want him staring down Max Crosby and holding down the ball. So I think they're going to have to run it quite a bit. I think Sanders has a little bit of juice in terms of the big play throws that he can make, and that might open it up a little bit more for Judkins. I'm not saying he's going to be efficient with those plays or good, but at least he'll challenge that Raiders team downfield with a few pass plays, and that will maybe open things up. So I do like Judkins quite a bit this week. I think his 20 touches become very efficient when you're facing the Raiders defense.
Yeah, the touches are too good to ignore, so he has to be in your lineups. Now, after I have Judkins at 14, Chase Brown is in there at 15. You're a little bit lower on him at 20. Really hard matchup against the Patriots, but hopefully he gets a bunch of targets. And then at 16 comes another rookie running back, Woody Marks against the Bills. You have him at 23, but Woody Marks has started the last two games, right? And this last week, it was disappointing in terms of fantasy points. He had a career high 18 carries, but that only turned into 44 rushing yards, 5.6 fantasy points. But the week prior to that, he scored 15 fantasy points. Last week, Nick Chubb only saw 3 carries in the game to Marks' 18. And the Bills have just been giving up so many yards and touchdowns, and the second most points per game to running backs this season, behind only the Bengals. So I do expect a good game out of Woody Marks on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, my only concern is, again, the Bills offense. Look, the Texans defense is basically contained almost everyone. The Bills offense does come in a little hot here. So we'll see if Josh Allen can keep it up with James Cook and the other weapons, but then they are battling some weapons issues, right? Dalton Kincaid, we'll see if he can play with a hamstring injury. We had the Keon Coleman going AWOL last week with the meeting being late and all that stuff. So are there enough weapons to attack that team and keep it competitive? I think the Texans can stay in the game, and that's all that needs to happen for Woody Marks. And he's also a very good receiver. So if they were to trail in the game, I don't think they're going to get blown out. I think their defense is going to prevent that. So it's going to stay close where Marks can get the necessary touches to be effective against that Bills defense, which just gave up a huge game to Sean Tucker. We'll see again if Sean Tucker can be valuable again. It's a much tougher matchup this week. It's almost gone from best to worst all the way down to the Rams this week for Tucker. But again, it'll be interesting to see. Again, another young running back that we didn't really have on the radar early because he was behind 2 other guys there. But I would say Marks and Tucker have a chance to keep it going this week based on their starter status. I have Tucker 22 and Marks at 23.
Yeah, I'm worried about Sean Tucker. We'll talk about him and why I have him lower this week a little bit later on. But yeah, I really like Woody Marks. Now, what about the Seahawks backfield? Right after Tucker and Marks, you have Kenneth Walker at 24 and 25. I'm a little bit higher on both. I have Walker at 17, Charbonnet at 22. They get the Titans this week, and I just think they're kind of just going to blow them out, right? It should be a lot of running. Titans are the 5th best matchup for fantasy running backs. We don't know who the rushing touchdowns will go to. They were all going to Charbonnet. Walker got one last week. Maybe they're starting to lean that way. The coach did come out to say that Walker is impressed and earned more playing time. So I like both, but Walker should have a really good week this week.
Yeah, they both should run over the Titans. I mean, I don't think they want to force things with Sam Darnold. I know it was the Rams defense last week, but they shouldn't want to throw on the Titans all that much. I mean, this team, I think they need to get some big plays early with JSN and maybe Rashid Shaheed, who just missed a touchdown in this opportunity there with the Seahawks after the trade. So, again, just get some big plays for the passing game and then get a lead so you can get in position to blow out the Titans. And then you'll see a lot of Walker, a lot of Charbonnet. Again, usually if one does well, the other one does well as well, but it really comes down to the key touches. We'll see how that split goes. I mean, they're winning for the most part. Maybe should have won last week if they had a few more yards on that field goal attempt. So if they're winning and that formula is working, they're going to keep sticking with it. It was a tough matchup, and Walker ran well last week. So Walker, I think it's going to be more of a 50-50 split, and you're right. It comes down to who gets the touchdowns in that game because neither is involved all that much in the passing game.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's take another quick break, and then we will finish up our running back rankings to end the show.
All right, this episode of Locked On Fantasy Football is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, and really it's a great time to get in on FanDuel. It's Week 12 in the NFL. The NFL has company with the NBA. It's back, and there's no better place to get in the action from FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of a game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at an even bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting at FanDuel, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, Michelle, it is time to finish the show here and look at the rest of our running back rankings as we dive deeper into the board, into our running back 3 and flex plays that we're looking at. Maybe that can jump into RB2 category. Now, Josh Jacobs, we don't know if he's going to go. He's optimistic he's going to play despite being knocked out of the game pretty quickly against the Giants, but I loved Emmanuel Wilson, so be it. Like, I picked Wilson as a sleeper. I didn't think the numbers were going to come that way, right, with the Jacobs injury. But he's been impressive when he gets the chance, right? I mean, they made a big deal of other guys in this backfield, but Wilson ended up being that reliable number 2. Vikings matchup at home. Would you go with Wilson, feel good about it at all if Jacobs misses the game?
Yeah, so right now I have Emmanuel Wilson ranked at 19. I didn't rank Josh Jacobs. You ranked Josh Jacobs at 13, didn't rank Wilson yet. So we're kind of on different sides here with if we think Jacobs will play or not. But yeah, if Jacobs doesn't play, I have Wilson ahead of guys like Breece Hall, who I have at 20, Jalen Warren, who I have at 21, and Zach Charbonnet at 22. I like him because of all the opportunities he's going to get. Josh Jacobs left that game in the early second quarter. Once Josh Jacobs left, Emmanuel Wilson played 94% of the Packers' offensive snaps. He was the only running back to get a carry after Jacobs got injured. Or to even get a touch. So I really like Emmanuel Wilson. The matchup is middle of the pack. Like, the Vikings aren't like one you have to stay away from. And he's going to get a ton of touches and get the goal line work. So I really like him this week if Jacobs misses.
Yeah, he has a lot of speed, quickness. He can burst. We know that. And I think he's a very talented back. And clearly it was the right choice to be the number 2 for the Packers. And again, I would put him really high up there. Like, I would almost plug and play him with Jacobs. There's not a lot of people I would do that with in this league, but Wilson, I think I would if he gets that volume that usually goes to Jacobs because it's such a good, effective running team, and that's not going to change against the Vikings. Now, same game, Aaron Jones in a revenge game. Yeah, he's coming back to play the Packers in Green Bay. And you have David Montgomery. He's in an interesting spot because the Lions get the Giants at home. And we know how bad the Giants are. That was the same matchup last week that Emmanuel Wilson feasted on. So Where are you going? What are you feeling with this matchup?
Montgomery's just been impossible to trust lately. 7 points, 5 points, 10, 9, 4. That's all in the last, five weeks that the Lions have played. It is an amazing matchup against the Giants, but so was that Commanders game, right? And they blew them out. And they gave Gibbs like everything pretty much all the way through. I mean, I guess David Montgomery did get 15 carries in that game, but they started to give Gibbs way more goal line work. Montgomery's not seeing the receiving work. I think Montgomery is playable. Just I don't expect a big game from him just because it's a nice matchup. You just have to kind of hope for those 10 to 15 points, and you would be really happy if you got to that 15-point range. Now, with Aaron Jones, he's been getting a lot of work. I have Aaron Jones as my 23, so that's just right behind, the Emmanuel Wilson and Breece Hall, Jalen Warren, Zach Charbonnet. He's definitely seeing the field a lot more than he was earlier in the year, and he's getting the work, but the points haven't really been there very consistently for him. And the Packers can be tough against running backs. He's a low end RB2 for me.
Yeah, I can't go there. I mean, you don't know who's going to score if they get down in scoring position, period. I mean, JJ McCarthy's been so bad that those scoring opportunities have been limited for Jones and Jordan Mason there. So I really don't want to play a Vikings back. I don't have any Vikings backs in any league, so it doesn't really matter. But I'm not touching that. Just this whole offense, man. It's just been terrible to watch. Like Justin Jefferson not being able to do much. And anyway, the running game is not something I want to attach myself to against the Packers. And David Montgomery, I think this is the week that he scores. Look, his ceiling is going to be limited now going forward. I mean, we saw this last year down the stretch. Jahmyr Gibbs kind of took control, but Jahmyr Gibbs is kind of a hog, right? Like, not in the sense of the touches, but like, you don't need to run 12, 13 yards on every play and leave little for your other guy to run, right? So, I mean, Jahmyr Gibbs is just amazing. And look, if they'd fed Jahmyr Gibbs a little bit more against the Eagles, I think they would have won that game or even got David Montgomery involved. But this could be that 50 burger. I mean, they've done it before against the Bears. The Giants are just a terrible, terrible spot in this matchup for them. I mean, they cannot handle the power run. They cannot handle the deep ball. They're going to be dead. And I think the Lions are going to do whatever they want in this one. Without Sam Laporta, maybe that'll help David Montgomery be a key red zone scorer in this game with Gibbs and Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams, and everybody scores in this game and everybody's happy.
Now, Sean Tucker, let's get to talking about him. Monster game this past week. Scores 3 touchdowns, has over 100 rushing yards, another 30 or 40 yards through the air. I'm really hesitant to play him. Right now, I have him ranked as running back 26. I don't want to play him if I don't have to. You have him at running back 22. Even after this game, Todd Bowles says they're going to go with the hot hand moving forward. Bucky Irving could come back this week. He came back to practice last week, which would hurt his, Sean Tucker's touches and snaps. And then also the Rams are the 3rd toughest defense against fantasy running backs. So all that, it's a lot going against him. And we have to remember last year in week 6, Sean Tucker got opportunity with injuries. He put up 136 yards on the ground, scored 2 touchdowns. The very next week, he gets 5 carries, right? Once there's other guys available. So I don't want to play Sean Tucker. I don't.
Here's the levels of Sean Tucker. If Bucky Irving plays, you're not playing Tucker or Rachaad White. You're not playing Rachaad White, period. I don't know why I even brought up his name.
Yeah.
But if Irving doesn't play, you play Tucker. If Irving plays, not playing 2 Bucs running backs. Not in this matchup. The Rams are just too nasty against running. I know Walker had some success last week, but that was the only thing the Seahawks were doing. I think this game could get really ugly, and the Rams could really put up some big numbers here and then force the Bucs. And that's the other thing you got to worry about. Can Sean Tucker consistently get checkdowns and passes? Keep in mind, they were going back and forth with the Bills, so they were ahead in a lot of situations where Tucker was getting it done. So I think it's going to be a big drop-off. Unfortunately, it goes from a great matchup to a bad matchup. I would like to avoid the Bucs running backs if I can. If Irving's kind of banged up and returning, it's not thrilling. But if Irving is playing, you playing him. Tucker, however, I think you could skip him if you got some better options. And Kareem Hunt, to me, again, you can look at him because DeForest Buckner is out for the Colts. That opens things up a little bit in the middle of the field. they might want to run the ball and go through Travis Kelce a little bit this week to beat the Colts. So I do like Kareem Hunt, who was solid last week. He was the one thing that showed up other than Travis Kelce in that game. So throwing it back to Hunt and Kelce maybe being the best Chiefs assets in this matchup.
Yeah, you have Kareem Hunt pretty high this week at 18. I have him at 24 ahead of guys like David Montgomery and Sean Tucker. Alvin Kamara, who got a lot of work before the bye. Maybe he's playable against the Falcons. But another backfield I want to stay away from is that Giants backfield. Both Tyrone Tracy and Devin Singletary had big, good, solid fantasy games this past week. But against the Lions, they're allowing the fewest points per game to running backs this season. And Singletary and Tracy are splitting the backfield 50-50, basically, with Singletary getting the goal line work and Tracy getting the receiving work. I just don't really want to touch it. If I had to play one, it would be Tracy because of the receiving work, but I want to stay away from the Giants backfield.
Yeah, I thought Brian Dable was gone, so you didn't have to give Devin Singletary some work. I didn't think you had to do that, or they were out of obligation to make sure Devin Singletary gets in the game. But I guess they are now. If he scored 2 touchdowns, that was annoying, right? I mean, Tracy could have had a really nice game if they had stuck with it against the Packers, but then you had no one playing Devin Singletary in that game. I don't want to play any of the Giants. The Lions are a good run defense. They're going to get ripped. I don't know if anything is great except for Jackson Dart kind of manufacturing plays with whoever's out there at wide receiver and tight end. So, again, that's the only guy I won't even think about in that game, Dart, if he plays. And I'm just going to be hopeful that he can pick apart that secondary. Now, the other option here was Alvin Kamara, and I would much rather play Alvin Kamara. Look at the numbers last week, or last time they played, I should say, with Tyler Shuck. He was all of a sudden effective. Why? Because Tyler Shuck was effective. He was pushing the ball downfield. The Falcons do suck against the run. I mean, you saw that Jonathan Taylor thing just a couple weeks ago. So this is an opportunity maybe for Alvin Kamara without any real competition here to get the touches here. So I think I'd much rather play Alvin Kamara, given his workload from the last game, than touch any of these Giants backs.
Yeah, I'm with you as well. I have Kamara at 27. You have him at 26. Bam Knight's another option as well. Amari DiMercado for the Cardinals is dealing with a high ankle sprain. He's going to miss time. So Bam Knight now again is a possible fantasy option, but really low end, like an RB3 type or flex play, or if you're desperate at running back 2, he can be an option. But that is it for today's episode. I want to thank you all for making Locked On Fantasy Football your first listen of the day. For your second listen, go check out the Locked On NFL podcast with Tyler the Madman Rowland, and then also Tony Wiggins in the end of the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Bye, y'all.